You know, some people say that Odoo business management software is like fertilizer, the way it promotes growth and all. But other people say Odoo is like a magic beanstalk because it grows with your company and is also magically affordable. And there's some people who would even say Odoo's individual software programs come together to build the perfect suite like building blocks. Well, Odoo is all of these things. Fertilizer, magic beanstalk, building blocks for business. So sign up now at odoo.com, ODOO.com.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Struggling to get out of bed? It might be time for an upgrade. Leesa makes exceptionally comfortable mattresses designed for every body and budget. But what truly sets them apart is their commitment to giving back. Since 2015, they've donated over 41,000 mattresses nationwide. Elevate your sleep and your space with Leesa. Go to Leesa.com for 20% off their award-winning mattresses, plus an extra $50 off with promo code IHEART. That's LEESA.com. Promo code IHEART for an extra $50 off.
And 9 to noon.
Shall we begin?
Holy Toledo!
I knew we was going to beat them clowns.
You're breaking up, Bob.
You're breaking up.
And that's a fact. Hashtag Faith Radio.
The season can't end like that! Roughing the passer. You homer! Oh, good.
In the air. Good morning. We are having some studios-wide technical issues right now. The old mandatory iHeart restart right at 9 a.m. You know, if this had been noon to 3, copyright Dan Cole, the Common Man, it'd be, oh, sure, you could have done the mandatory iHeart restart at 5:30, but that's the wildly successful and highly touted Power Trip Morning Show.
I think I got 7 minutes left. I might be able to put our next guest on the phone here, but I don't know if I'll be able to get him off the phone.
Oh, sure, you could have done the mandatory iHeart restart at 9, but that's voice of the Vikings real estate. Oh, sure, you could have done the mandatory iHeart restart at 3 o'clock, but that's this is the place they never do the mandatory iHeart restart. Oh, leader, the fan, and KFAN.com. But it's not Dan Cole, the Common Man. It's me, Paul Allen, Nordo by my side. So we're down a computer. We're down a call screener. I think the button bar has reemerged.
The Analyst.
Yes, it has, which means the phone lines now are working with the mandatory iHeart restart, and here they are. No. Hey, what are we doing over here? Hey.
I had them up.
Hey, Peter.
Good morning.
All right.
Sounds like things are running smoothly.
That's a mandatory iHeart restart. right at 9 a.m. But you know what? We got you, and that's really all we need, because here's the genesis of this conversation. One of a zillion Pete and I have during the course of the year, most of them taking place during football season. So the analyst texted me yesterday, full of joy and glee. Why? He just finished film work. Why? He just finished film work on new Vikings defensive tackle Javon Hargrave, and some facets of the young man's work have blown away said analyst. Now, we in 9 to noon style officially will dagger what some think is the elephant in the room, and we'll get to that momentarily. But, you know, if the analyst goes out of his way after film watching to text me full of joy and glee, well, we start radio shows with that. So what did you see, and good morning?
Good morning, Paul. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Well. I hope you're doing well.
Likewise.
No, it's you're familiar with the names, Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave. You've heard them before, and then you get a chance to finally watch them on film to see their latest work and where they are. And I was just super impressed with Javon Hargrave. And I believe when I texted you, I said, by the way, this guy's a beast. I hope he's healthy.
Right.
Because, he is. And the Vikings haven't had somebody of his caliber capable of what he's able to do for quite some time. And you take a look at the group that they're going to be able to put together on the field at the same time. And with Hargrave and Allen out there along with Van Ginkel and Kennard, I don't know how teams are going to run the ball against us very well. I mean, you would have to put us at or near the top in run defense again, if not even better. And with the power of Hargrave, and that's what he is. He's so powerful, and I don't know how many highlights I have and saw, because we'll be doing a film room on him, of him just taking a center or a guard and literally just walking him back into the lap of the quarterback, right? And that's something we have seen and dealt with and experienced on the opposite side of the football. By the way, that's going to get fixed too.
Yeah.
But to see Hargrave be able to go out there and do those things he's a beast. He was playing at an all-pro level the first 3 weeks of this season, no question about it, before he injured his tricep.
Right. Well, his nickname is the Gravedigger. What are some of the best nicknames you can remember during your NFL run? Because like the nickname has, in this era, specifically with social media meshing with branding. I mean, like Patrick Mahomes doesn't even have a nickname, because you can't call him Mr. Reliability, because that may be hooked to some business that's not giving him money. So he won't embrace a nickname. I mean, I think the last truly good nickname we had in the NFL was the Seattle Seahawks secondary, the Legion of Boom. I mean, that was pretty cool. We got Harry the Hitman, back in the day, Kenny the Snake Stabler, the Fearsome Foursome, Purple People Eaters. What are some of the better nicknames you can remember during your NFL run?
My God, you're putting me on the spot.
I just gave you 9.
Paul, I know you talked for about a minute there, but I don't know. I mean, one of my favorite nicknames was Pops for David Palmer, because he had some gray hairs and a lot of kids, right? So we called him Pops. I know that.
That's exactly what we were looking for, Mr. Analyst. Let me ask you this. So Jonathan Allen, Harrison Phillips, Javon Hargrave. Is that the 3 linemen you anticipate being used most of the time, or how's that going to work?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, both Hargrave and Jonathan Allen play a lot over the center, but I think in this scheme they're going to be out more probably over guards and playing 3 techniques. They both run line stunts extremely well, and that's something that Flores loves to do, is keep those defensive linemen on the move, right? You line up at a gap, you slant, you loop, to other gaps. I mean, for Hargrave, he played in San Francisco a 4-3 jet defense, meaning he was in a sprinter stance when he lined up, right? And he was just heading north and south. That's just their style of play. Not too much different from what we did with Tony Dungy in those days when he was here. So that's gonna have to change. But he uses his hands very well. He pursues the football. And what's funny about San Francisco is they don't platoon as much on the defensive line. So those guys are out there. And, so I think with him being here, platooning in and out, you're going to get a lot more out of him just because he's going to be fresher. That's why the age part doesn't worry me as much. And Jonathan Allen he's more of a brawler, right? He's not so much a technician. He's just a bull in a china shop kind of a guy. But, great hustle, instincts on screens and stunts and all those things. So we're going to see these defensive linemen moving around a ton. And you mentioned Harrison Phillips, and, John, going into the season last year with Jonathan Bullard and Jerry's last name.
Jerry Tillery?
Yeah, Tillery. Yeah, Tillery. I mean, Tillery was a high pick, but he was a journeyman and never really settled down anywhere. And we got a good full season out of him, and he's been rewarded. He's been rewarded for that. You're bringing in two defensive tackles, Paul, that are at or near the top of the list throughout their career. And so the talent that you're bringing in is remarkable. Both these guys are very, very good. And I just can't wait to see the two of them on the field at the same time with this defense.
The analyst is excited after some film watching. Now the B topic, because it never was happening here. Is Tom Pelissero from NFL Network reported the Minnesota Vikings are not pursuing Aaron Rodgers and eventually will roll with a veteran backup quarterback. How does that hit you, Mr. Analyst?
Sounds about right. I mean, that's something I'm going to be interested in finding out, was just to gauge that level of interest.
Started zero.
Only because of what they're trying to build and everything that we hear from them. You look at a guy like Rodgers, he just doesn't fit. My thing too is just with what we saw out of him as a quarterback. This is regardless of all the off the field stuff and the media circus that he brings. We saw him in London. He's a shadow of who he was when we saw him in his prime. I mean, we saw him twice a year for how many years? And the guy was a magician, right? He was unbelievable. He doesn't have the movement that he used to have. He doesn't have that ability to extend plays, and because of that, he has to get rid of the football quickly. Yes, he may know what to do with it, but in this offense where we're down the field, I mean, we're 15, 25 yards with the ball in the air. I don't think he possesses the arm strength any longer to do that. When he goes deep, it's because the corners are rolled up pressing his receiver, and he takes a snap, takes a step, and then throws a fade. Now, granted, he's still unbelievably accurate, and he's very, very good at that, but he's not taking a 5-7 step drop and reading and then delivering a ball on a deep post route, right? The play that we had against San Francisco isn't going to happen. Play action, take a shot down the field, JJ. That's not going to happen with Aaron Rodgers. He just doesn't have the arm strength. So, if you're going to be dealing with somebody who's limited physically, I would think you'd want to go in a different route, right? Somebody that is going to be more, you would just assume, more of a teammate and not as much of a distraction.
And with the belief the Minnesota Vikings will be interested in a veteran backup quarterback. Right now, J.J. McCarthy, Brett Rippon. I've said this before, but I'll just say it more directly now. is the need to secure a veteran backup quarterback at this moment is, I don't believe, a high level of importance. And here's why. Is who's available and what you're getting into. But B, past performances. When they signed Nick Mullins here for the first time, that took place in training camp. So I don't sense they're tripping about the situation. I sense, as I have for the last week and shared here and on social media, on Twitter, they're all in on the kid. And I don't, if they sign a backup quarterback, post haste, okay, they do. But I wouldn't have any urgency with it right now. If I'm me or you or a fan or whatever, and it'll happen when it happens.
Yeah, and then if you do have some cap room going into the season, that gives you some flexibility. If something does happen, that you can spend some money and go out and find somebody, right? You can go out and find someone. You can go out and bring the ability to bring anyone in or make a move to bring somebody in is there if things do go wrong. Because, oh, by the way, we're Viking fans and we've seen those things happen. So, yeah, But we didn't get a chance to talk at all about Jordan Mason.
Yeah. And
Paul, I think I said it weeks ago, or at least after they signed Aaron Jones, saying we need to have a number 2. We even need to have a number 3. We finally have a running back after. I mean, when's the last time we had a guy who was running number 2? I mean, Madison was there, and we ended up giving him the number 1 spot, but he didn't do anything with it. But a guy who's legitimately a starter in this league, and a guy who's going to be able to take snaps off of Aaron Jones. You're going to get more out of Aaron Jones because he's not going to be out there anywhere near as much as he has. And for Jordan Mason, he's absolutely going to be that guy. Different type of runner, bigger guy, downhill in between the tackles, but he got better as the season really went on. He played mostly base downs, first and second down for San Fran, and I see him as an opportunity for him to play third down for protection reasons.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to learn the route tree and get a little bit more involved in the passing game. Because he really didn't do a ton of it in San Fran. So because they had Debo, if they wanted to do something out of the backfield, they just put Debo in there. He's definitely a 4-minute offense type of a guy when you want to just run the ball, move the clock, and so that red zone, those kinds of things, short yardage, it's going to make the Aaron Jones signing much better because you're going to be able to get more out of Aaron for longer.
Pete Bercich at Pete Bercich via the X Machine. Let me ask you this. How similar are the Vikings and 49er offenses? And the reason I ask is because their Vox, Greg Papa, who really, really gets football and is juiced into kind of how things go with the Niners. He was on 9 to noon yesterday at 11 a.m. podcast at KFAN.com if you want. And he was praising Mason as being a wonderful zone scheme runner. So he thinks he'll fit in quite nicely here. But how similar are those offenses?
I think from a schematic running game standpoint, similar. But I think that's kind of where it ends. They were an empty formation team a lot more than I thought. They like to run the football with 2 tight ends, or bring in Juszczyk, the fullback, and do those things. But yeah, a lot of stretch and zone and different direction. Not a ton of counter and things like that, but they do run it a little bit. But yeah, they spread that offense out a lot more than I remembered. Right? When you think about the 49ers. So I think from a schematic standpoint, the run game is similar in that regard. But formation-wise and kind of how they went about doing it, I think is a little bit different. What's interesting about the Niners is just when they run the football and they get 5 or more yards, they're going to turn around and hand it off to Jordan. They're going to hand it off again. It's just they're going to keep it. It was amazing to see how many back-to-back 5-10 yard runs that Jordan Mason had. just because that's their style, right? If they're running the ball and the running back's hot, they're just going to keep handing it off until you stop them. So that's something I would love to see a little bit more on our offense as well. But I think, now that we have the line upgraded and a couple of good running backs, we might be able to do some of that as well. Just because, again, you got a rookie quarterback. His best friends are going to be a good defense and a good running game. Mm-hmm. And I think we'll see how the defensive backfield ends up, but I think we're heading in the right direction with that. And with the defensive front, we're going to be able to put on the field. Don't be surprised if that's where we draft somebody. Because you can cycle in an interior defensive lineman very easily. You make that defense better, it's going to help out a younger quarterback.
The analyst is playing very fast right now with
hardcore football.
So we're going to make this the marathon segment provided by Steve's Appliances. Steve'sAppliances.com. Steve'sAppliances.com. Fast delivery, free recycling, and guaranteed low price. They have a spring savings sale right now. Shop online, stevesappliances.com, or stop up at the store and say hello to the very kind owners and the very kind staff. Marathon segment, stevesappliances.com. Hey, before I forget about this, about a veteran backup quarterback, what do you think of Cousins as the veteran backup to McCarthy if Atlanta picks up most of the freight and you kind of wait out the Falcons a little bit and get him for a Vikings-friendly deal?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
I'm
me
absolutely 100% fine with that, just because for a number of reasons. And you think about what we just said and what we talked about with Rodgers. Cousins is he lost his starting job in Atlanta, so it's not like he's coming here knowing or thinking he's going to compete and be that guy. He still has enough in the way of arm strength, right? He has his limitations. We know what they are. We've seen them. But I don't think he's going to be a distraction if he comes here knowing that's exactly what his role is. And his familiarity with this offense and this system would be fantastic. It would be very easy for him. If he's going to be a backup somewhere, you think about a quality of life part of it, where, you're backing up a rookie, so odds of getting in and playing, maybe pretty good, maybe not. But if something does happen and get your opportunity, he's going to be more ready to step on the field with Kevin O'Connell's offense than he is with anybody else's right now, right? So it makes sense in a lot of ways. So if that was the case, I would be very happy with that. I'd be fine with that. I'd be say let's roll, because we've won a lot of football games with him.
You hit on it a little bit earlier, Mr. Analyst Pete Bercich. We were at the Combine together. Everybody listened. Pete was there a day longer than me, so perhaps you secured some steam I don't have. But after all this with free agency, McCarthy, 22 years of age, being the quarterback for the Vikings, so there will be some metaphorical moguls along the way. You also have a coaching staff that knows metaphorical moguls are coming, so they can craft game plans and call plays and work things to get around it as J.J. McCarthy grows. So, like with that first pick in the draft, 24 for now, I make offensive linemen prohibitively favored because of the work they've done with the offensive line. And, still fortifying something that obviously is there to protect what eventually will become potentially the face of the franchise, the quarterback, the 22-year-old quarterback doing it for the first time. What do you think of that?
I don't, if it's a guard situation, if someone's, I think what they've done though is they've managed to fill enough of the gaping holes and voids where, when we do our little pre-draft, or we're on the radio talking about, you're on the radio talking about the draft, and here come the Vikings. They still need some bodies in that defensive back room, right? Safety,
right,
cornerback. But outside of that, you don't have a glaring need to reach or to get someone. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. And, we all love to say, take the best that's available. Well, maybe the best available is trading down. Who knows, Paul? But they don't have any huge potholes that they have to fill, right? And we know this draft is deep with running backs. It's deep with, certain positions, defensive linemen, especially the interior. So if you're able to, pick up a big body like that, I think that's fantastic. We've done a great job with younger free A's in transition, Van Ginkel, Grenard, et cetera, Cashman. The free agent crop that we're signing this year, a little bit on the older side, right? So, you start thinking about the long-term, the longevity of what we're trying to do. You need an influx of young talent. So, you just pick the guy that is going to make an impact on this team, and I don't think there's anything that they have to reach for.
Time for two more. Back to the running back piece for a second. Did they draft a running back high? I mean, that would be 24 or the next pick that they have, given the class is so impressive. And would said player need to be good on special teams immediately? And if that's the case, I don't see running back at 24, but I wouldn't be surprised if they took a running back because the class is so impressive.
Exactly right. And you take a look at this, you take a look at our division, Paul, and there are 8 guys on this planet that play guard, offensive guard in the NFC North, right? And there are going to be, and half of them have been replaced. Right, two of the 4 centers in this league have been replaced. We're going in with a new guard. Green Bay has a new guard. Chicago has 2 new guards, and Detroit already has one of the best offensive lines in the league. And with Ben Johnson, when he did in Detroit, they're going to continue to play that way. He's going to bring that mentality to Chicago. So you're going to have 2 teams in this league already that are going to want to run the football, right? It's still going to be, I think, one of the better divisions in the league this season, and it's going to be physical, and it's going to be a lot of good offensive linemen in this division as well. So when you look at it from that standpoint and what running backs have been able to do, if you've got a kid there that's worthy of that pick, I don't have anything. I don't have much in the way of reservation in that. You might be able to find a good running back down the road who's more of a third down pass catcher type of a Deebo Samuel style, let's call it, running back, since he's on my mind. That I think would help us schematically to be able to do some things. So if that's the type of running back that you need and want, then yeah, because Aaron Jones has only got a 2-year contract. You're going to need bodies to fill that void when they're done. That's what I'm saying. Get some younger guys, build the future. Yeah, offensive line wise, I mean, you just got to get the right person. I look at this team. The last time we had a situation like this with a rookie quarterback or a younger quarterback was Christian Ponder. And Christian Ponder came to Minnesota with number 1, the best running back in the league and one of the best defenses in the league. It was a perfect situation to develop a young quarterback. He wasn't going to have to throw the football 45 times a game to win. I think we're looking very similar to that this year, and but I don't think that Kevin O'Connell is going to just let us hand the ball off no matter how good a running game is 35 times a game. It's just not his style. So. And you go, okay, well, how important is that running back position? What's more important? That's why, I start thinking offensive line, and I don't know. But you have to have faith in that whoever they take's the best one on the board. I'm really not too concerned, I guess, is my overall point. We don't have to fill any holes. We don't have to go grab somebody. So who they pick is fine with me.
Stay in touch, and thanks for the information. Appreciate you, brother, and I'll see you soon, all right?
All right, Paul. Thank you very much, man. Have a great day.
See you, man. That's the analyst, Pete Bercich, analyst for the Vikings Radio Network. Genesis of the conversation texted me yesterday, full of joy and glee. Why? He just finished film work on new Vikings defensive tackle, this guy.
Four-man rush, spinning away, but not quickly enough, and sacked at the 44. Mills under pressure, and the Eagles get to him. Hargrave busting through again. 2nd and 10. Look out. 22-yard line. Number 97. What a night for Hargrave. What a night.
All right, Al.
What a super exciting highlight I picked.
Javon Hargrave, who knew? TimberTech and TimberTech.com provides the What's on Deck 9 to noon, which includes Mike Florio from ProFootballTalk.com. That takes place 12 minutes from now, which means a truncated and multi-segment Bikes Bites will unfurl around the corner. And then in the final hour, Alec Lewis with The Athletic and TheAthletic.com. He's in studio to chat Vikings off-season speculation, draft, and, by the way, the guy who never was coming here in the first place officially is not coming here per Tom Pelissero of NFL Network, who splashed with it this morning. I'm sure that will slide into the mix. Nordo produces, and I'm Paul Allen. Some Vikes Bites are around the corner at FM 100.3 KFAN.
How to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1. Go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2. Collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3. Play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4. Unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, everybody. So when you get asked, what is Odoo, what comes to mind? Well, I'll tell you. Odoo is a bit of everything. Odoo is a suite of business management software that some people say is like fertilizer because of the way it promotes growth. But, some people also say that Odoo is like a magic beanstalk because it grows with your company and is also magically affordable.
Ooh. But then again, you could look at Odoo in terms of how its individual software programs are a lot like building blocks. Whatever your business needs, manufacturing, accounting, HR programs, you can build a custom software suite that's perfect for your company. So what is Odoo? Well, Odoo is a bit of everything. Odoo is a fertilizer, magic beanstalk, building blocks for business. Yeah, that's it.
Which means that Odoo is exactly what every business needs. Learn more and sign up now at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
Struggling to get out of bed? It might be time for an upgrade. Lisa makes exceptionally comfortable mattresses designed for every body and budget. But what truly sets them apart is their commitment to giving back. Since 2015, they've donated over 41,000 mattresses nationwide. Elevate your sleep in your space with Lisa. Go to lisa.com for 20% off their award-winning mattresses, plus an extra $50 off with promo code IHEART. That's LEESA.com. Promo code IHEART for an extra $50 off.
All right. Yours truly messed up the first segment, made it a marathon. That's okay. Now we have a shorty because we need to get to Mike Florio from ProFootballTalk.com on time and under budget. So let's do it this way.
Now, what did I do wrong?
Now, what I did wrong is I went about 8 minutes too long. So Vikes Bites will be multiple segments, very popular segments, 9 to noon. And we're going to mix in talkbacks from you on what you're thinking at 10 o'clock and maybe sprinkle them in during the course of the show. So, like when we mix in some talkbacks via the free iHeartRadio app, subjects include, but are not limited to, Ding Dong, the boring, repetitive Rodgers talker finally is dead. How do you feel about that? Let us repeat ourselves. Ding Dong, the boring, repetitive Rodgers talker is dead. How do you feel about that? Free iHeartRadio app. Talk back now. Did the team make the right call? Not that there ever was a call to be made, but what do you think about it? Or are you crestfallen that they did not consider Aaron Rodgers, or strongly consider, we should say fairly, and bring him in? Talk back. Free iHeartRadio app. Text and talk back more than people know. Vikings and free agency. Are you digging the approach? Are you digging the approach from the re-signing of like Aaron Jones all the way through the newbies? And I believe my man's name is Tim Jones, who came from the Jaguars and was signed yesterday. Where do you feel the Minnesota Vikings need improvement, and how can it be fixed? With what you have, what they brought in, if you perceive they are weak somewhere, how can it be fixed? Text and or talk back more than people know. Free iHeartRadio app. Like here, if I were jumping into the fray, my talk back to jumpstart festivities would sound like this. Good morning, guys. Despite some people just hating being told no, and it leads to hyperventilation and teeth gnashing, and the fact some can't always get what they want, I'm really excited about the cornerback Isaiah Rodgers. That they secured him during the first wave of free agency, I feel is big. Didn't want to mess around with any bidding wars. He fits here perfectly. Isaiah Rodgers doesn't roll his eyes and talk about it on McAfee after games, and just seems to be perfect for what Brian Flores has up his sleeve. I'm excited.
Free agency never fails on the Quasi train.
Hey.
Free agency never fails on the Quasi train.
So, if Rodgers had landed here, would you have pulled your tickets? The future is now with young JJ and securing at least one, but preferably two joint practices this training camp is important. And both here would be sweet for the fans. Joint practices, as I've mentioned, I feel, are vital for the 22-year-old quarterback to prep him for the rigors of the regular season. The team was never signing Aaron Rodgers, and the future always was now. Florio, PFT next.
Hey, everybody. So when you get asked, what is Odoo, what comes to mind? Well, I'll tell you. Odoo is a bit of everything. Odoo is a suite of business management software that some people say is like fertilizer because of the way it promotes growth. But, some people also say that Odoo is like a magic beanstalk because it grows with your company and is also magically affordable.
Ooh. But then again, you could look at Odoo in terms of how its individual software programs are a lot like building blocks. Whatever your business needs, manufacturing, accounting, HR programs, you can build a custom software suite that's perfect for your company. So what is Odoo? Well, Odoo is a bit of everything. Odoo is a fertilizer, magic beanstalk, building blocks for business. Yeah, that's it.
Which means that Odoo is exactly what every business needs. Learn more and sign up now at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
Struggling to get out of bed? It might be time for an upgrade. Lisa makes exceptionally comfortable mattresses designed for every body and budget. But what truly sets them apart is their commitment to giving back. Since 2015, they've donated over 41,000 mattresses nationwide. Elevate your sleep and your space with Lisa. Go to lisa.com for 20% off their award-winning mattresses, plus an extra $50 off with promo code IHEART. That's LEESA.com. Promo code IHEART for an extra $50 off.
Van.
There's something wrong with you. It was driving me crazy.
PFT.
You are one of the biggest suck-ups I know.
Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com, also an author, joins us now. PFT, he's a weekly guest, has been for multiple decades, and we love him. And speaking of author, tell us about your recent book announcement, Mr. Florio, and good morning.
Which recent book announcement? What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about.
Over the weekend, you didn't you put something to PFT about like a sequel coming out or something?
Oh yes, third book in the Father of Mine series. I finished the first draft last night, and then I started back on what will be the latest pass of what I've already written, and I think the first 3 chapters suck, so I'm going to end up rewriting them, and hopefully I won't end up rewriting the entire book. But the first draft means nothing. The first draft is just the frame, and the frame can get blown out and replaced. But hopefully I'll get to a point where when I go back and read what I wrote when I first started it, I look at it and I say, okay, that's good enough, it'll stay. But the first 3 chapters, not happy, going to rewrite them tonight.
Okay, off that, how do you...
But it's coming.
No,
it's coming.
But how do you
The first
determine...
draft being done is a big deal. It's coming. Right. Now, the the real work begins on getting it ready for others to read.
I'm not trying to turn this into Barnes and Noble fan line, but like
you asked me a question, I gave you an answer, bro.
Right, but I'm having a follow up, bro. All right, 3-2.
Dude.
So you write the first 3 chapters and you like what you wrote, but then how do you determine, like, hey, it needs a little bit of work compared to it's terrible, which is what you kind of said? Like, how do you get to that conclusion?
Well, I was just disappointed by it. And the book evolves from start to finish, and I just think that I need to put a little more effort in, especially with the 3rd chapter. It needs to be more cohesive to the rest of the book, and it needs to get moving. You can't meander early in a book. It's got to be moving. Chapter 2 fits. Chapter 1, Chapter 3, it meanders a little bit too much. It's a little too contemplative from the standpoint of the character who's narrating the chapter. So I need to tighten it up, or I need to make it move, and I'll be working on it tonight. And also, there's something in the works with audio versions of Father of Mine, Son of Mine, and On Our Way Home. I don't know how it's going to play out. I don't know whether I'm going to be doing the narration. I don't know whether I want to do the narration because it's going to be a cumbersome process, but that's for people who have been asking for the audio version, and there have been many over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
The audio version, the wheels are in motion for some sort of a deal where there would be an audio version, and I would actually make a little, not much money, but a little money off of the deal, more than I make from you.
That's fantastic, and people can learn more about it at ProFootballTalk.com. Now, the B topic, at least for yours truly, NFL Network's Tom Pelissero splashed this morning, ending the Rodgers-Minnesota talker. What do you think about all that, Mr. Florio?
Well, look, I'm willing to call it a coincidence, but I will say this. Not long before the Vikings leaked to somebody who's essentially on the payroll, because everybody who works for NFL Network works for all of the teams, and the Vikings have since put that same report out to others like ESPN. Not long before that, Sims and I had a very spirited argument. We have reason to believe that people in the building watch PFT Live on Peacock, Sirius XM 85, and also now on something called NBC Sports Now, which is incredibly easy to access and watch online. I tried it today, and it's 2 clicks. It's amazing. Anyway, we were arguing about comments that Cameron Hayward, the great Steelers defensive lineman, had made recently about Rodgers. Either you want to be a Steeler or you don't. And my take was, why is this taking so long? We saw guys last week making quick decisions about their football futures. Aaron Rodgers is looking at 1 more year. Why do you have to stroll on the beach and look pensively out into the ocean and all of this stuff? Why is it taking so long? And ultimately, we landed on, why are the Vikings taking so long to let anyone know what the hell they're doing at the quarterback position? Because silence just fuels speculation. And when The Athletic has this big report with 3 names on it that Rodgers wants to play for the Vikings, and maybe the Vikings are going to sign him, and there's other indications connecting the two together, the lack of signing a veteran free agent and the silence from Rodgers and the Vikings will lead people to wonder if it's going to happen. So at some point, somebody's got to hang up the phone. Somebody's got to end this. If it's not going to happen, good for the Vikings to say it's not going to happen. Even if they didn't come out and say it on the record, they've done enough with multiple outlets having the same information. And I'll call it a coincidence, but it was literally within 30 minutes after Sims and I were saying, what the hell are the Vikings doing? It seems like they don't have a plan. What is their plan? Are they with McCarthy? Are they against McCarthy? Are they looking for a veteran like Rodgers? Are they not looking for a veteran to come in and start? What the hell is happening? We got an answer within 30 minutes.
Right. A couple things here. Yours truly, I caught wind that there would be a dagger into this yesterday and that it would take place this morning. And it did. So
then it wasn't a coincidence.
No,
it was a coincidence.
Yep. So the timing of that added up. Secondly, whether it's talking into this microphone on the radio show or doing some stuff on Twitter, they, to say that they were a 0 in the consideration of Aaron Rodgers' department, I can't say that because there are so many people in the building. All one person has to say is, hey, let's talk about this. And that would qualify as small consideration. But there never, ever was significant consideration of bringing Aaron Rodgers to the Minnesota Vikings.
And that doesn't surprise me. Look, every team has, and I'm sure you've been in the room at the Vikings facility where they've got the giant board, and they've got on the left side every position with the hierarchy of the guys they currently have. And then on the other side, they've got every position with the list of the guys they would try to pursue if and when they have needs. I mean, football teams are, and it really is dehumanizing, but this is the way it works. They are giant machines made up of a series of interchangeable parts. And when one part breaks, or when one part is too expensive, or when another part comes along that's better and might be, relatively speaking, affordable and could maybe improve the overall performance of the machine, you have to at least consider it. There aren't many guys that are just absolutely positively, we're not going to think about it, we're not going to talk about it, we're not going to start down that path. That is part of engaging in what they call the quote-unquote best interests of the team. But at some point, it's got to end. At some point, you reach a conclusion. And from the standpoint of understanding that this is a customer-driven business and you've got a base of customers who are wondering what in the hell is going on, at some point you've got to make a decision and you've got to share it with the world. So that's what they've done. It was overdue, and now we go back to waiting for Aaron Rodgers after he's walking around on the beach with his Darth Vader cape, being surreptitiously photographed on purpose by paparazzi.
Right.
What is he going to do? And I see Shefty reporting just a few minutes ago that it doesn't change his timeline. And the guy's just got no awareness of what this does to the people who are waiting for their teams to make a move. Because I think what Cameron Hayward said yesterday is a reflection of how Steelers fans feel. And you just get to a point where we've had enough of this guy. And the irony is, usually people get to the point where they've had enough of him because he's said too much. People are getting to the point where they've had enough of Rodgers because he hasn't said anything.
Amen, brother! Laid it out nicely. Now, with that said, I do make the Steelers a tepid favorite. Tepid. You know, it's with the options that are out there and him supposedly still wanting to play. You know, maybe some will make ain't nobody running to the Giants, okay? So the Steelers should be prohibitively favored. I don't think they are, because I think retirement for Aaron Rodgers it has more possibility than maybe some others think. Like, you know, I've been told that he's very hard to find these days. Takes a long time to respond to calls and texts, and some people just can't handle being told no. So, what do you think of that?
Well, I think that is a possibility. It's a possibility that was, I think, disregarded when it was reported that he really wanted to go back to the Jets and the Jets told him no. Because if you really want to go back to the Jets, the fair implication is you really want to play football. Because why in the hell would you want to really go to the Jets unless you really wanted to play football? And there was a thought that maybe he wasn't going to have a lot of options. And I think that has fed to this idea that he's milking and enjoying every amount of attention that's coming from this, because 3 weeks ago, he was teetering on irrelevance as far as the NFL was concerned. There was no clear landing spot. The Raiders, who are desperate for good quarterback play, had no interest in Aaron Rodgers. He was at best the fallback, the leverage for the Rams talks with Matthew Stafford. So if Stafford ended up leaving and getting paid more elsewhere, they'd pivot to Aaron Rodgers. And at the Combine, we heard that Rodgers' representatives had reached out to the Giants. And the big takeaway from that is, well, if he's reaching out to the Giants, he doesn't have anything. And he must really want to play. So it could be that the agent, David Dunn, trying to identify all of the various options, setting the table so that Rodgers can make a decision. And look, Paul, I think that one very viable option, and I've said this from the get-go, sign with no one, wait at home to see if a quarterback on a high-end contender suffers the kind of season-ending injuries we saw from multiple quarterbacks in 23. 24, for the most part, the quarterbacks were healthy. 23, there were multiple serious injuries. All it takes is one. I'm not going to name names by way of example, lest I be accused of putting the Malocchio on someone, but all it takes is one, and all of a sudden Aaron Rodgers runs to the rescue if that team wants him, in lieu of going, quote-unquote, next man up. And that's always going to be a significant pivot point. We have a guy who knows the offense, he knows the team, he knows the coaching staff, he's ready to go, he's had reps in practice, we know what he can do. We're bringing in a guy who's a stranger to the operation, but that may be the way he gets back in. So I can't rule out anything at this point from Aaron Rodgers, and I don't know whether he's just doing this for attention or if he just is being aloof, but it is frustrating from the standpoint of folks who just want to know what's going on. And for a guy who's everywhere during football season, between McAfee show on Tuesday and his press conference on Wednesday and his post-game press conference, he's just quiet now, and he's too quiet to the point where nobody knows what he's going to do. And there's got to be a way to shed some light on what you're thinking without tipping your hand. Just let people know that, this is where I am, this is what I'm trying to do, and this is why it's taken so long.
Are the Pittsburgh Steelers potentially more dysfunctional than some people know? And the reason I ask is because things ended so terribly last year. And it's the way Aaron's playing this now, not even contacting the team supposedly. Is there some dysfunction with the Steelers?
I think that there are multiple categories of teams in the NFL. There are teams that are inherently dysfunctional, and the dysfunction that flows from the top is manifested at every level all the way down to the football field. Then there are the teams that are run extremely well from the top to the bottom, and they consistently contend. Then there's the group that is low-key dysfunctional, that maybe has dysfunctional ownership, but has enough other pieces in place to hide, to mask, to conceal the dysfunction. And some would say the Steelers fall into that group. Some would say the Vikings fall into that group. But some would definitely say the Steelers fall into that group.
So now the Steelers are stuck, right? I mean, because I can't see them waiting around that long. They've already waited around a long time for somebody to make a decision. I mean, and it's clear, at least for, from afar, they're no longer interested in Russell Wilson. I mean, like what's next for Pittsburgh with this key spot? I
think their fallback, if Rodgers doesn't go there, is Mason Rudolph. And people will say, who? What? Right. Really? Mason Rudolph ended up being the quarterback late in the 23 season after the soft benching of Kenny Pickett. Rudolph went 3-0 down the stretch and played well in a wild card loss at Buffalo. It was a game that got delayed from Sunday to Monday because of a snowstorm. 31-17. There were moments in the second half where it was like, are the Steelers actually going to win this with Mason Rudolph? And I think they wanted to bring him back last year. He just wanted too much money. They ended up getting Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, and Kyle Allen collectively for less than what Mason Rudolph made last year in Tennessee. So the Steelers have been playing it cheap, and I think they played it cheap with Justin Fields. I think that's the guy they wanted. I don't think they ever wanted Russell Wilson back. I think that the folks who dealt with Russell Wilson last year did not want to have a sequel to the Russell Wilson experience for a variety of reasons.
Yep.
And I don't think it's a mistake that there's been no real talk of him going back there, and he's made a couple of visits. So I think they'll stick with Mason Rudolph. Maybe they'll draft someone, and we'll just see what happens with Aaron Rodgers. And there's always a chance they're going to add somebody else, like a Joe Flacco, who is waiting to see what happens with Aaron Rodgers. And you've got Wilson out there. Again, I think the ship has sailed there. There's always the possibility of a Coco Chains trade. I don't think the Steelers would do that. But Rodgers continues to hold all of this up. And now that the Vikings have opted out and closed the door and ended the conversations, you wonder whether or not the Steelers and the Giants will do the same. Especially the Giants, because I don't think he's going to the Giants. I think that's the last option, and maybe even an option below retirement. They've visited with Wilson, Joe Flacco, and Jameis Winston. I'd like to see the Giants just say, we're moving on, Aaron. But the reality is Aaron may give them the best chance to save the jobs of the coach and the GM this year, and that would be a reason to wait.
Lastly, and landing the plane on everything involving this quarterback situation, you mentioned Kirko Chains. I don't believe the team here is in a hurry to hire a veteran backup. And in fact, when they signed on with Nick Mullins several years ago, they did so in training camp. So, I mean, this could linger. Now, with Chains, with Kirk Cousins, does it make sense to wait out the Falcons and get an absolute Vikings-friendly deal if he's willing to come here and absolutely be a backup? Would you be interested in that?
No.
Why?
No, I think he wants to play. I think that's the key. If he's going to be a backup, then stay in Atlanta where you're not very far away from your wife's family.
Right.
I think he wants to play. And I think that he was trying to wiggle his way free of Atlanta, because it was entirely possible if he'd been released, he would have gotten more on the open market than what the Falcons have committed to him the next 2 years. He got $62.5 last year. So it's $27.5 this year. They allowed a $10 million roster bonus that had been guaranteed for injury to become fully guaranteed. That's in 26. That $10 million ultimately meant nothing to the Falcons. It was a big deal after he was benched, but it means nothing because if he gets cut after this year, somebody's going to pay him more than $10 million next year. The Falcons aren't going to owe him that $10 million. The question is, 27.5. How attractive would he be to another team in trade? And I think that's the game that the Falcons are currently playing. Let's see who calls. Let's see what they offer. Let's see if we can get some value in return for the 62.5 we paid him last year. And yes, he's got a no-trade clause, but he's got two options. Waive the no-trade clause and go to a team that would trade for him that would want him to play, or be the number two behind Michael Penix, and you only play if Penix suffers injury that keeps him from getting on the football field. I think it's as simple as that. So to go to Minnesota and be the backup, I don't think he'd want to do it. And that brings us back to that vague notion that the Vikings were plotting something other than J.J. McCarthy as the quarterback this year, from Darnold to Daniel Jones to possibly Aaron Rodgers. It had shades of 2000 when the late Denny Green tried to get Dan Marino to go to Minnesota in lieu of handing the baton to Dante Culpepper. And it ended up working out very well for Dante Culpepper through 5 seasons and into 2005 until he had his knee exploded in a game at Carolina. But I think that's what the Vikings were at least contemplating. That all ended now. They've made the commitment to JJ, and I don't think Kirk would want to come back and be the backup. If he's going to be the backup, he just stays put in Atlanta.
All right, good luck with that rewrite. Tear it up, and we'll talk soon, all right?
See you, pal.
Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com.
PFT.
It's 10 o'clock. We begin the next hour with Backs and Bites, as in Talkbacks and Vikes Bites on KFAN.
You know, some people say that Odoo business management software is like fertilizer, the way it promotes growth and all. But other people say Odoo is like a magic beanstalk because it grows with your company and is also magically affordable. And there's some people who would even say Odoo's individual software programs come together to build the perfect suite like building blocks. Well, Odoo is all of these things. Fertilizer, magic beanstalk, building blocks for business. So sign up now at odoo.com, ODOO.com.
Struggling to get out of bed? It might be time for an upgrade. Lisa makes exceptionally comfortable mattresses designed for every body and budget. But what truly sets them apart is their commitment to giving back. Since 2015, they've donated over 41,000 mattresses nationwide. Elevate your sleep and your space with Lisa. Go to lisa.com for 20% off their award-winning mattresses, plus an extra $50 off with promo code IHEART. That's LEESA.com, promo code IHEART for an extra $50 off.